Hi. So in this section, in this lecture series, I'm going to cover Prometheus, and I'm going to install the Prometheus for monitoring in the Kubernetes cluster. So Prometheus has become very popular, especially for collecting data and metrics information from the clusters. And what it does, it collects information on the nodes, like the capacity on the nodes. So basically, you can check on the resource consumption, and also it collects a lot of information about the pods which are running, and it collects information over time. So if there is anything you want to do, something like pattern based, say like what happens, especially after a certain time, if for some applications, if there are too many requests coming in, it helps you assess the applications running in your cluster, like if the load goes up and then when the load goes down and stuff like that. So this is very popular, and it has been around, but I'm going to run it in the Kubernetes cluster. So if you see, this is the web page is prometheus.io. It has information about what it is and how it works. So it has a server, and it will basically collect the information. But on the Kubernetes, they haven't given in this one. But basically, on the Kubernetes clusters, it what the way it works is, so I have updated some information on my GitHub page. So the way it will work is that it it is supposed to be set up using a cluster role and cluster role binding. So that what does that mean is that we'll create a cluster role named Prometheus, and we'll give it access so that it can do a get, list, and watch on all the nodes and all the services, pods, endpoints. And then also it does that on the ingresses, so that way it collects anything that's going on in the environment, including services, pods, and all that. And then cluster role binding, basically what it does, it there'll be a service account, and that service account gets access to that role. So that cluster role binding means it will be applicable to all the namespaces, right, irrespective of a namespace. So once it is created, the next step to create is to create a config map. Is basically, it has all the information. This is really big and we don't have to go through this, but it will have the information needed to set up parameters for the Prometheus. And finally, it's deployment and a service. Deployment is pretty straightforward. It pulls the image Prometheus, and then it will just run it. It uses mounts. It will create automatically. We don't have to do anything. And finally, we'll run it as a service. So the service, in this case, I'm exposing port out on. You can choose whatever node port you want, but and then the target port running in 1990 on the container. So I'm going to set it up in my cluster. So if you can see my terminal, right, I just logged in. So here, right, I'm just going to alias it. It's always simpler. And if I see, I have the same 3 nodes. My workers are still not ready, so my 2 workers, or one of the workers, yeah, worker 3 is I deleted it, so the one is ready, so I can just use these two. I don't need all of them. So what I'm going to do, first step is to, I'll show you over here. I've documented it. First step is to create a namespace. So you can create in any namespace, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a namespace called monitoring. And in that monitoring, in that namespace, I am going to create the cluster role and cluster role. Okay, so I have the all these YAMLs in my GitHub repo, but I just you can directly pull it from there, or you can directly implement it. So I'm going to just run it. So I'll start with the cluster role. This one has both the cluster role and the role binding. So as you can see, it created the cluster role and cluster role binding. I will create the config map, and then deployment. Okay, now let me just so it's not coming up yet, so we have to wait for it to come up. It's up now. So if I do get pods, minus namespace monitoring, it's up and running. So the only piece left is this service. Okay, so in the case of a service, I have it's running as node port, and the target port on the container is 9090, and any external can hit on port 8080, and on every node explicitly it is available at 30200. So now I'll implement it. So now if I do get svc, it's there, right? If I do all the endpoints, or I can just explicitly do. So the service is up and running, and that's the endpoint. So if I hit that endpoint, I should be able to get, I should be able to see the dashboard. So let me see. So as you can see, my service is running on node port 30200. So this is a node port, which means on any node in the cluster, if I hit this port, I should be able to see the UI for Prometheus. And since I'm running this cluster in Amazon with setting up my EC2 instances, what will happen is I will have to explicitly open the port. I have to go to this. So for my EC2 console, I have to go and look at the security groups, and then I will have to explicitly open the port 30200. And that's what I just did, right? So 00 from outside, because otherwise I will not be able to hit it. So now if I hit my then I if I hit port, so this is the public interface for the one of the nodes, and if I explicitly hit on 30200, I can see the Prometheus console. So yeah, and like you can explore, and there's a lot of stuff that can be done. Alerts can be set up for anything. Something is running on a high memory, an alert can be set up, uh, and then you can take actions based on the past. And then there are graphs. I haven't set this up. Targets. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's good to explore, and then we can actually add graph, and we can actually service discovery, right? So basically it shows everything, what kind of service discovery for based on each of the nodes. And I also have a C advisor